I don't have any tonsils. They took them.
I meant your thyroid.
These are, yeah, sometimes mine get swollen.
That would be your tonsils, but you don't have any.
I don't have tonsils.
Apparently, but that's.
I don't have them. You can.
You only have one thyroid.
I'll call my mom right now. I don't have tonsils. I
Swear I
remember.
will. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Football Show. I'm your host, Joe Fair. Welcome to another episode of the entire population of Vatican City's favorite podcast.
Wow, very good.
Okay,
You're never gonna be able to do that again.
take the reins.
You blew it,
Please.
Oh my goodness.
I'm nervous.
That was wow. You even said you were the host, Joe Fair. You're not.
I was hoping I kind of tricked them into thinking that I was you.
And
or
maybe for a
something.
second he did. Yeah, Joe.
Hey, drop a like if I tricked you there.
If I tricked you, make sure you share it on Instagram. Swipe up if he tricked
Swipe
you.
up.
Fire emoji. That was not me. That was Joe Thiessen, my illustrious producer, the man behind the booth. As
I don't
they
think
say.
you know what illustrious means.
I think it means exactly what I think it means.
What does it mean?
I don't know. I know in my head.
Okay.
I'm not a dictionary.
What
Look
if
up.
it means like something extremely
Illustrious.
inappropriate?
It means like, exactly what I think it means. But what is the entire population of Vatican City?
Wow, 1,000 people.
No
It's the
way.
It's the smallest.
1,000. It's a country?
Yeah,
That's
or country. Yeah, least populated country in the world.
That's so stupid. Literally, it's smaller than the town that we live in.
Yeah, it's also the smallest country in the world
How do you
by
apply to
land
be a country?
area at 0.17 square miles.
What?
Yeah, so 0.44 square kilometers.
How are they allowed?
I feel like that's for that little. That's a lot of people for that little
That-
place.
That is they just live in one big house.
Yeah,
That's insane. I don't know.
So-
Vatican City. I don't know what's going on over there. But
but it's their favorite podcast.
yeah, it is their favorite. All
Irregardless.
of them.
All of them.
That's all of our listeners is from the Vatican City.
Illustrious, well-known, respected, and admired for past achievements.
Exactly what I thought. See?
I don't know how you know words.
You're welcome.
like that.
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
And I hope you listen to a lot of podcasts, but for the most part, I hope you listen to this podcast. Welcome again to the Average Joe Football Show, the podcast where we talk football and other stuff sometimes. In case you're wondering why Joe was opening the show, I've had today, the second time that we've recorded this podcast, horrible allergies all day. So I was just really struggling to start the podcast.
We need an understudy.
We need Joe is officially my understudy.
Yeah.
Until we find an understudy for you, and he will understudy you,
Oh.
and he will start the podcast. But before the show, we're listening to some Jack Harlow, get ourselves a little motivated. It's snowing,
And some
so
Sturgeon Simpson as well.
Sturgill Simpson,
Oh.
not Sturgeon.
Oh.
And I've got to say, nobody likes Jack Harlow more than a white kid with allergies.
Yes.
That is literally who
That's
Jack
what he
Harlow
looks
is.
like.
Yeah, 100%. And that's who I am today.
Yeah.
So Joe, you killed it. Congratulations on your first intro.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I was nervous.
You were
I was really nervous. I tried once and I just rambled for a little bit. You know?
I rambled, said a lot of really offensive things.
We had to cut it all out.
We had all that. I actually had to fight him.
Yeah.
We had to go to fisticuffs because
Yeah.
he was saying some really horrible things. It was like a demon had overtaken him.
Yeah, I was possessed for a quick second. Said rude things about you and your personal life.
Everybody.
Kind of got really into it.
Yeah, it was really insane. But yeah, eventually we'll talk football. I'm really excited about today's show. I got a fun show for you guys. We're going to recap all of Week 11.
Wow.
Week 11 of the football season. There's only 17 weeks. So,
Wow.
yeah, next week is Week 12. It's crazy. It's like the season went by pretty fast. And then it's like, what do we even do anymore? But yeah, we're going to recap all the shows, all the shows,
today.
everyone
that we've watched this weekend. We got The Mentalist. We got Gilmore Girls. I've been watching a lot of Gilmore Girls.
New
with my
Girl.
wife. New Girl, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm watching Gilmore Girls.
Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And thoughts?
I like it. It's my 100% my guilty pleasure show. Gilmore Girls.
Wow.
I
I've
love
never
it.
I've never watched. I don't even know what it's about.
It's about a
Is it the one with the traveling pants? Is that what that is?
That's the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Okay. All right.
With
You
Blake
can
Lively.
you can see how I would have got that mixed up then.
Yeah, you're actually kind of correct. Gilmore Girls. And actually brings us the sponsor of this video, which is Gilmore Girls.
Gilmore Girls on HBO Max.
Yes. No, Gilmore Girls is about a woman. Her name is Lorelai Gilmore, who has like really prim and proper rich parents.
Okay.
But she was kind of rebellious.
Whoa.
And she ended up getting pregnant at 16.
Whoa.
And had a daughter whose name is also Lorelai. They call her Rory.
Insane. What are the odds?
Yeah. Her name, they had the same name.
Same name.
It's really crazy.
That's
Anyway,
crazy.
it's based on a true story. It's
It's not.
but yeah, and then they're just mother and daughter. They're so close. They're best friends. It's just so cute.
Wow.
And they live in a small town called Stars Hollow.
I don't know where to go from here. What do you want me to do with this information?
What have you been watching? I don't know. You tell
Sports.
me.
Things that guys
sports.
watch. No, that's really brave of you to be watching that.
Yeah,
That's
you
great.
and your toxic masculinity.
No, well, listen, that's for the toxic masculinity podcast. We won't get into that today. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I had so many things I wanted to talk about at the top of the show.
I threw you for a loop.
Everything
didn't I?
has been thrown for a loop since you started the show. So real quick before we get too deep into it, make sure, quick shout out to the Mic'd Up podcast, our sister podcast. That's right, sister podcast, because we're watching the Gilmore Girls now.
Yes.
They're a really great podcast.
Sisters. They're not sisters. That's
Well,
embarrassing.
sorry?
It's embarrassing. No, I said they're mother and daughter, not sisters.
But they have the same name.
You made a mistake. Yeah.
You made a mistake by bringing up the Gilmore Girls.
One is
on
the
pod.
mom, and the other is the daughter, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like to move on from the Gilmore
Kind of-
Girls, please.
Okay, all right.
Can I?
You may, I guess.
Listen to the Mic'd Up podcast. It's not quite the Gilmore Girls. They're not father or what was
Oh,
it
that's
again?
super embarrassing. Sorry. It's actually a mother and a daughter, Lorelai and Rory Gilmore.
Rory?
Rory. Her name is also Lorelai, but for short, they call her Rory.
Oh, they call her Lori.
Because Rory is way cooler than Rory.
Not really.
Rory is way cooler than Lori, rather. Yes.
Okay.
Rory is cooler than Lori.
Listen to the Mic'd Up podcast. They're
And another thing, actually, while I'm on this subject. No, sorry, go forward.
okay. This is just completely off the rails. We're gonna get into football. We're gonna talk about Week 11. We're gonna recap every game from Week 11. We're gonna give you my Week 12 picks, and in between them, sandwiched between that, I have a new segment called Relax. You know, it's a really stressful time right now. We're stressed out. I'm stressed out at the top of the show because it's been complete chaos. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna have different people in the NFL universe, and I'm gonna tell them, people that need to relax. Just relax. It's something that I often would tell my mom when I lived at home, and she would not appreciate it, and neither has my wife. I've learned as a married man, nothing worse to say to somebody who's mad than relax
or calm
or
down.
chill.
Calm down is a
Chill will get them really going. So we're not going to tell people to chill. We're going to tell them to relax today. All right. But yeah, listen to the Mic'd Up podcast with Billy, Nick, and Mike. They are our partner podcast. Really fun podcast with three guys that really like sports. They talk all things sports, not just football. They talk football. They talk basketball. They talk PGA. All that good stuff. Baseball as well. Stuff that, I'm not qualified to talk about. So if you ever get bored of football or you get bored of the Gilmore Girls, make sure you go over and you give them a subscription. Tell them that we sent you there. I don't know why. You have no
If you
reason to do
you
that.
can win a prize from them.
It's from them. Yeah, it's from them. It's not from us. I cannot stress this enough. It's not from us. So if you go over there and we sent you, make sure you beg them for your prize.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, Joe, before we get into football, you have anything else you want to talk about before we start the show?
I think I've said my fill.
I think you said your Gil, actually.
More.
Yeah, more. Please, no more.
Okay.
But yeah, why don't we just jump right into the show and let's talk every single game from Week 11. Hit the music, Joe. First up, we had the Thursday night game between the Cardinals and the Seahawks, a big divisional game, and the Seahawks walk away with a 28-21 victory. Russell Wilson had a fine game, 22 for 38, or 23 rather, for 28, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 10 rushes for 42 yards. Kyler Murray got hurt early. You could tell from the jump he was not right. He got tackled awkwardly, and he kind of had like a giant ice pack on his little body for the entire game. And he didn't look right throwing the ball. He finished 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, and in 15 yards rushing, which is kind of weird for Kyler Murray. The Cardinals, despite not playing their best game, had a chance to win this game right at the end. But Carlos Dunlap, the signing, or the guy that they traded for, the Seahawks traded for very recently, came up with a huge sack to end this game for the Seattle Seahawks. That's a big win for the Seahawks, a team that had kind of been struggling. They lost 3 of 4 before going into this game, and they pick up a big win against a surging Arizona Cardinals team. And this was a big win for Seattle as they now sit atop the NFC West alongside the team that beat them last week, the Los Angeles Rams. Next up, we have the Packers at the Colts. This was probably the game of the week. And just so you guys know, I'm going to try to go through the games a little quicker this week. I feel like I've been maybe doing a little bit too much. I'm trying to get to other segments and not stretch this out too much. So I'm going to try to go through the games as quick as I possibly can while still doing them justice. And I feel like this game needs to be talked about because this was a tremendous game between the Packers and the Colts. The Colts walk away with a 34-31 comeback victory. This was an incredibly big win for the Indianapolis Colts. They've had some really big wins this season. We talked about last week their win over the Tennessee Titans. That was a huge divisional win, and they play the Titans again this week. Now the Colts are sitting at 7-3, along with the Packers, who are now 7-3, with a loss to the Colts. But Phillip Rivers played a gritty performance. He was injured early in this game. He went 24 for 36, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Jonathan Taylor finally played well. He had 90 yards on the ground. Michael Pittman is really developing into a really good rookie wide receiver. He had 3 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers played really well early. He finished 27 for 38, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns. Devontae Adams had another 100-yard game and chipped in for a touchdown. This was a really hot start for Green Bay. They were up 28-14 at the half. And then they did not score again in the second half until the very end. Crosby's kick to tie up the game and send it to overtime. Indianapolis forced 4 turnovers. That defense is legit. We thought maybe early it was kind of fluky, some of their defensive stats, because they hadn't really played any good teams. But their defense is legit. And they gave the Green Bay Packers some problems. They were dominant in that second half. And this game went to overtime, like we talked about. It looked like Aaron Rodgers, was going to just carry the Green Bay Packers to victory. And it was really setting up towards that. He had an incredible throw to Marquez Valdes-Scantling at the end of regulation to set up the game-tying field goal that sent it to overtime. And the Packers get the ball first, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling catches another ball and actually is fumbled. Julian Blackmon, the rookie safety, who's been incredible. He could be a potential defensive rookie of the year this year. He made an incredible play to force that fumble. The Colts get it in their own territory. And then Rodrigo Blankenship hits the game-winning kick. He's the goofiest looking man in the history of football. He hits the game-winning kick, and you got to feel good for him. This is a guy who he was asked a few weeks ago what he did during the quarantine, and I think he was saying that he played with a lot of Legos, and he looks exactly like the type of person that would play with a lot of Legos, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, if you don't know who it is, look up Rodrigo Blankenship. He's the guy who hit a game-winning kick in a football game, and congratulations to him. Like I said, big win for the Colts. Just keep building that momentum, and they'll play the Titans again this week. So that's another big game. And if they pull out that game, I mean, we gotta really, really start to take the Indianapolis Colts seriously. Moving on to the next game, and it was Taysom Hill's first career start this Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. The Saints walk away with a 24-9 victory over the Atlanta Falcons. This was a dominating victory. It was kind of close early. It was a slow start for kind of both offenses. Going into half, it was not very high scoring, but Taysom Hill took over in that second half. He finished 18 for 23, 233 yards, and 10 rushes for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. Played well. I thought he had some mistakes. At times he looked really dominant, especially running the football, and that's been his game. He's an extremely athletic guy who can throw the ball. I don't know if he's really a thrower who's extremely athletic. It might be the other way around. But he had a couple of throws deep down the field that were somehow miraculously caught despite being incredibly underthrown. He threw this ball to the moon, underthrown, and Emmanuel Sanders, I think, made 2 crazy catches somehow. One of them was called back for a penalty. But Taysom Hill played well, I think, in his first start. Like I said, he had a couple of things that he maybe didn't do 100% perfect. But for a first career start, and we talked about last week how stupid it was, how it drove me nuts that Taysom Hill was not getting the start, as it looked like Jameis Winston was going to start this game. I'm glad we finally got to see Taysom Hill because he's been hyped up so much by Sean Payton and by everybody, and it was good to finally see him in action, see him as a starting quarterback, and he played well. And Matt Ryan, as far as the Falcons go, Matt Ryan sort of struggled in this game. He didn't have a touchdown. He had 2 interceptions on 232 yards. And this Saints defense is really coming into their own now. And I think the Saints are just developing into one of the scariest teams in the NFL, even without Drew Brees. And I think when Drew Brees comes back, they might be the best team in football right now. We worried early about their defense. That doesn't really seem to be a problem anymore. They're really coming to their own. They made what is actually a really good Atlanta Falcons offense. They made them look not nearly as good. In this, like I said, this team might be one of the most balanced, talented teams in the NFL. And we see that every year. Who knows if it's going to turn into anything in the playoffs? But right now, the Saints look scary. On to the next game, and it's the Tennessee Titans at the Baltimore Ravens. This was another really good game that came down to the wire in overtime. The Titans walk away with a 30-24 victory. Derrick Henry walks off the game with a 29-yard game-winning touchdown run in overtime. And this was a slow start for Derrick Henry at 36 yards at the half. But by the end of regulation, he ended up with 96 yards. And then he finished with 133 yards on 28 carries and that huge game-winning touchdown. Ryan Tannehill played well. He was 22 for 31, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Lamar Jackson, 17 for 29, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And Mark Andrews had himself a big game, 5 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. And this was, like I said, a really good game between 2 really good teams. And I think people were kind of starting to sleep on the Titans because of that loss to the Colts. Maybe people didn't think that they were, a legitimate contender in the AFC. I think this was a big win for them against a really, really good team. Despite Baltimore's struggles lately, I still think they're one of the better teams in the AFC. I think the biggest problem with Baltimore in this game was they were missing Brandon Williams and Calais Campbell, and we saw that. It looked like they might be able to survive, and they might be able to actually thrive against Derrick Henry. Like we talked about, he only had 36 yards at the half. But Derrick Henry does what Derrick Henry does. He's the best closer, if you want to get to baseball terms, the best closer in the NFL. I mean, he's a guy that can just close out games. We've seen it time and time again. You hand him the ball, he's a monster of a man. He will make big men look small, and that's exactly what he did. He's just so freaking athletic. And this was a big, big game for the Tennessee Titans and a big win. And I wouldn't worry too much. Everybody is freaking out about the Baltimore Ravens right now. And I think, it's not crazy to say that you're a little worried about the Baltimore Ravens. And, they've been struggling lately. But they've had injuries. And now this week they had more bad news because they had to put Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins on the COVID-19 list, so they will not play this Thursday against the Steelers on Thanksgiving Day. So that sets them back even further. So they've had really bad luck, and like Calais Campbell being out, like we talked about, Brandon Williams, those are two tough losses to have. And now with no J.K. Dobbins and no Mark Ingram against the only undefeated team left in the NFL, that's going to be a tough matchup for them on Thursday. Maybe they can, be just desperate enough to pull out a win, but I wouldn't freak out too much. I still think the Baltimore Ravens are a really good team, a really balanced team. Everybody's saying that Lamar Jackson is completely figured out at this point. I wouldn't go that far, but this was a really good win for the Titans, like we talked about, and hopefully the Baltimore Ravens figure something out. Next up, we had the Patriots at the Texans, and the Texans walk away with sort of an upset victory over the New England Patriots. Deshaun Watson played great in this game. He was 28 for 37, 344 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also had a touchdown on the ground on 36 yards rushing, an incredible rushing touchdown where he just bulldozed his way through Devin McCourty. He showed what makes him so special. He threw to 3 receivers, got them over 80-plus yards. He had Jordan Akins, is it? I think Jordan Akins, the tight end. Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller all had over 80 yards receiving. Cam Newton had probably one of his best games since that Seattle game, if not his best game since that Seattle game. Passing the ball, he was 26 for 40, 365 yards, a touchdown. And Damiere Byrd, he connected with Damiere Byrd multiple times, 6 receptions, 132 yards, and a touchdown. Like we talked about, this was the Deshaun Watson game where Deshaun Watson Deshaun Watson convinced us all that he is still very good. He reminded us just how good he is, just how talented he is. And despite, how tough of a season it's been for the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson is still a young, fun, amazing quarterback, and he can do some spectacular things. And a tough loss to take for the New England Patriots, who are trying to get back in the playoff race. I think they're cooked. I think they might roll off a couple wins here at the end. I wouldn't be surprised to see them beat Miami or Buffalo late and pick off one of those teams, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, and that's okay. Maybe we'll tell them to relax later on in the episode. Stay tuned for that. But a good win for a bad Houston Texans team and a bad loss for an also bad New England Patriots team. And then we had the Pittsburgh Steelers going to Jacksonville and playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. They walk away with a 27-3 victory. Big Ben played really great again. 32 for 46, 267 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. James Conner added 89 yards on the ground. And Jake Luton, who, looked magical. His first game as a starter there for Jacksonville. That magic has basically run out. And playing the Pittsburgh defense will do that to you. He had 4 interceptions, no touchdowns on 151 yards passing. Like we said, his magic ran out against a very, very talented Pittsburgh Steelers defense. James Robinson has been really, really good this season as an undrafted free agent running back. He had 73 yards on 17 carries. Pittsburgh just took care of business. They didn't have a trap game like we've seen them tend to have multiple times during the past few years under Mike Tomlin. But they just went in, they took care of business. They played a bad team and they took it to them. And this was a must win for Pittsburgh. You got to beat bad teams like this, and this is exactly what they did. That defense is scary. I can't imagine being Jake Luton, a 6th round pick, and going in against this extremely, extremely talented defense. And he also has to, if he keeps playing, eventually face the Indianapolis Colts, which is another phenomenal defense. But yeah, good win for Pittsburgh, and the Jacksonville Jaguars continue in the race for Trevor Lawrence. Next up, we have the Bengals facing the Washington football team. And this was a somber game, despite Alex Smith picking up his first home win in a very long time, since almost dying of his injury just a few years ago. I laughed. I probably shouldn't have laughed, but obviously huge win for Alex Smith, and we're extremely excited, extremely happy for him. But the bigger news in this game was Joe Burrow, the number 1 pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, Somehow, it seems like Washington, the football team, these brutal, disgusting leg injuries just follow them. Even if it's not them, it's the quarterback on the other team. And Joe Burrow, I think in the third quarter of this game, was getting hit as he threw. Had a guy fall on his leg and completely warp his leg and blow out his knee. And this is extremely disappointing. He ends up tearing his ACL and MCL and a bunch of ligament damage. And it looks like a rough injury. And it might be one of those injuries that has him out for a while. I wouldn't be totally surprised if he misses a lot, if not all of next season even, which is just super disappointing because he played so well as a rookie, and it's just a bummer. It's a really big bummer to see a young, talented quarterback cut down in his rookie season when he was playing so well, and he was a potential Rookie of the Year candidate, and we obviously are hoping that Joe Burrow can get back healthy. You're hoping that his youth and his age, maybe helps the fact that he can recover quickly and get back quickly. But obviously our thoughts and prayers are with Joe Burrow. The rest of this game, I feel like doesn't matter all that much because we're thinking about Joe Burrow and we really hope he's going to be okay. Congratulations to Alex Smith and prayers up to Joe Burrow. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins at the Denver Broncos. My Miami Dolphins going into Mile High Stadium and dropping an absolute deuce of a game, just getting flat out honestly destroyed. The score is close, but Denver dominated this game. It was a 20-13 victory for the Denver Broncos, who are now 4-6. The Dolphins now 6-4. Drew Lock played all right in this game. He had an ugly interception early that set the Dolphins up in scoring range, and the Dolphins scored a touchdown early. And he was 18 for 30, 270 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. But Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay were kind of the headliners of this game. That run offense for Denver exposed some things about this Miami defense that people maybe didn't know, and that is that they can be run on multiple times. We've seen through this 5-game winning streak that Dolphins have had huge plays on special teams, huge plays on defense, where they got up, they had a big lead early, and the other team has had to throw the ball, and that's what the Dolphins, exactly what they want. They have a good pass rush, despite not really having one in this game, but they have a good pass rush. They have a really good secondary, so that plays right into their hands. But that didn't happen too much early. They did have an early interception, and the Dolphins did go up 7-0 early. But the Denver Broncos stayed pat with the running game, and Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon made them pay. Melvin Gordon finished 15 carries for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had a key fumble at the end of that game. And Phillip Lindsay had 16 rushes for 82 yards. Tua, he was yanked in this game in the fourth quarter. It was about as discouraging a loss, honestly, for the Dolphins as you could almost not draw up a more discouraging loss after a 5-game win streak. Tua went 11 for 20, 83 yards, had that touchdown early, but just did not look right from the beginning. Since that touchdown, he was sacked 6 times in this game. His offensive line did not hold up. Ryan Fitzpatrick came in the fourth quarter and actually threw for more yards in the fourth quarter than Tua had the entire first 3 quarters. He finished 12 for 18, 117 yards, and a game-losing interception. He came in with the ball at the 1-yard line, down 7, a chance to go and win the game, and nearly did it. And that would have been insufferable because we'd have to talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick potentially being the starter again. But Tua has been announced as, Brian Flores is keeping him as a starter. I didn't totally agree with benching Tua. I didn't like that decision by Brian Flores in this game. And a lot of people are saying, quarterbacks shouldn't be held to this high standard where they can't be benched, you can't hurt their feelings. And it's not really that. It's just, Tua has had it fairly easy so far as an NFL quarterback. He said that kind of last week when he a lot of his quote got taken out of context, but basically saying it's not as hard as he thought it would be. So he's had it fairly easy. The defense has played well. The special teams has played well. I don't really understand how the first time that he has his back up against the wall, things are hard because the NFL is hard. Things are hard. Why do you yank him, in the fourth quarter? If you think that he's a special quarterback. If you think that he's a potential franchise quarterback, why not let him play through this? And Brian Flores said that Ryan Fitzpatrick gave them the best chance to win at that point. But why not see what you can do with Tua? Why not give him a chance to work through the struggles? I didn't totally understand benching him. And like I said, it just made for a very depressing Sunday for a lot of Dolphins fans, including myself. It was a tough weekend, and that's why we're going to try to relax later on in the episode. Tough sports weekend for me, other than winning in fantasy, which is great. But the Dolphins lost in embarrassing fashion. The Raptors lost a bunch of key parts of their championship roster. So, just a tough sports weekend. But we're going to relax later on in the episode, so don't worry, guys. But yeah, like I said, an embarrassing, destructive loss for the Dolphins. They hope to bounce back next week against a very bad New York Jets team. Because if they would get that game, then we'd have some serious problems. And you might get to hear me have an aneurysm on the podcast if that happens. But yeah, a really dominant win for that Broncos defense. And hopefully Tua can respond and bounce back next week. We also had the Dallas Cowboys going in and picking up a win to go to 3-7 and just right in the thick of things there in the NFC East. They win 31-28 over the Minnesota Vikings. Definitely an upset victory. This Vikings seem to be surging the last few weeks, seem to be really playing well. Andy Dalton finished 22 for 32, 203 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. And Zeke finally had a nice game. He went over 100 yards for the first time this season. Also had a receiving touchdown. Kirk Cousins actually did not play bad in this game. He was 22 for 30, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. Adam Thielen had 123 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. He's been huge. He was actually just placed on the COVID-19 list for this week, so he won't be playing this week. Another disappointing COVID-19 list ad by one of the teams in the NFL. That's what we're talking about, NFL football. But obviously disappointing that Adam Thielen, who has been playing really well lately, is put on the COVID-19 list. And Dalvin Cook also gave the Vikings 115 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And you'd think with numbers like that the Vikings found a way to win this game. But the Cowboys somehow, some way, their defense is playing better. They're starting to improve a little bit. They're not the worst rushing defense we've ever seen anymore. And a big win for Andy Dalton, who comes back from COVID-19. And the Dallas Cowboys somehow, some way, still have a potential to make the playoffs in the worst division we've ever seen in the history of NFL football. And then next up, we have the Lions at the Panthers, and this was P.J. Walker, my boy P.J. Walker from the XFL, the Houston Roughnecks, former star quarterback, got his first career start with Teddy Bridgewater out, and he played pretty well. 24 for 34, 258 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. DJ Moore had himself a game, 127 yards receiving. He also had 21 yards on the ground. Big game, but P.J. Walker played well in this game. I mean, he had 2 interceptions, and both of them, I think, were in the end zone. But if you go back and watch his tape from this game, he doesn't look like he doesn't belong in the NFL. He can really rip the ball. I mean, he had a couple of dimes in this game. Early on, he had a really, really nice pass. I think it was to DJ Moore early on in this game. But yeah, he can really spin the ball. You could argue that he has actually a better arm than Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, Teddy Bridgewater is a better overall quarterback, but a super impressive win by the Carolina Panthers, who have just been this frisky, fun team all season long. And PJ Walker, it was so nice to see PJ Walker play well, as he was so fun to watch in the XFL, and I was rooting for him, hoping for the best. He outplayed Matthew Stafford, who went 18 for 33, 178 yards. So a big win in the first career start for PJ Walker, and that Carolina defense, who is one of the worst pass rushers in the NFL, had 5 sacks of Matthew Stafford today. So all the young pieces coming together on that Carolina team, and I think they have a bright future there in Carolina. On to the next game, it was the Jets at the Chargers, and the Chargers walk away with a 34-28 victory over the New York Jets, who are now 0-10 on the season. The Chargers now sit at 3-7. Justin Herbert had himself another game. He struggled against Miami, but he came back in this game and really, really played well. He was 37 for 49, 366 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I believe he now has the most 300-yard passing games by a rookie quarterback. He's a complete shoe-in now for Rookie of the Year. Obviously, with Joe Burrow hurt, he just played really well. And it's a lot easier to play really well when you have Keenan Allen to throw to, who had 16 receptions for 145 yards and a touchdown. Joe Flacco played fine, not as bad as you might expect. 15 for 30, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And Denzel Mims, the rookie receiver there for the Jets, he looks like he has a bright future. It's been kind of a hopeless season for the New York Jets, but you've seen a couple of glimmers of hope. And Denzel Mims is one of them. And the Chargers nearly blew this game. They had a big lead early. The Jets started marching back in this game, but the Chargers hung on to it. They did not charger like they usually do and blow a big game. They win 34-28, and this was probably good for the Jets. Play another competitive game, just like the New England game. Play competitive, don't get blown out, don't get embarrassed, but you don't win either, and you still have a shot to get Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 overall pick. And then we had the Eagles at the Browns, and this was another game in Cleveland, another ugly weather football game in Cleveland. It seems like every single Sunday in Cleveland is a miserable day. And Baker Mayfield in the Cleveland Browns did not play miserable football. Baker finished 12 for 22, 204 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And Nick Chubb, despite being shut down early in this game, had 20 carries for 114 yards. And Carson Wentz for the Eagles continues to be probably the worst quarterback in football. I mean, he's a mess. He had 235 yards passing, which seems okay until you account in the fact that he had 2 interceptions to match his 2 touchdowns. Miles Sanders had 66 yards on the ground, but also had a fumble. Cleveland, this is a big win. This is the type of win that I think Cleveland Browns teams of old would have blown. This is a game that they should have won, and they did win. It was a gritty, hard-nosed win. It seemed like the Eagles did everything they could in their power to stop the run game of the Cleveland Browns, and it worked for a while. Nick Chubb could not get anything going, but eventually Nick Chubb broke off a big time run, had a huge signature stiff arm, and the Cleveland Browns were just too much for a bad Philadelphia Eagles. The Browns defense is playing really well. They had 5 sacks, 3 forced turnovers in this game, and Carson Wentz, he might be broken at this point. We'll talk about him a little bit later, but he's a mess. And then on to the Sunday night game between the Chiefs and the Raiders. And this was another fun divisional matchup. The Raiders got the best of the Chiefs early on in the season and handed the Chiefs their only loss so far this season. But the Chiefs exact a little bit of a revenge on the Las Vegas Raiders, winning 35-31. Patrick Mahomes was Patrick Mahomes in this game. 34 for 45, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interceptions. It seems like he only throws interceptions against the Las Vegas Raiders because he had another one in this game. I think he only has 2 on the season, and both of them are against the Raiders. And Travis Kelce had 8 receptions, 127 yards, a touchdown. Tyreek Hill also went over 100 yards and had a receiving touchdown. And Derek Carr, who has been one of the biggest surprises of the NFL season so far this year, played pretty well. He had 271 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. And the Raiders just have some players on that team. Darren Waller continues to be one of the best tight ends in football. Obviously, Travis Kelce was in this game. There's probably the best tight end in football. But Darren Waller had 88 yards and a touchdown. And Nelson Aguilar, who was a complete cast-off there for the Eagles, he's played well. Every time I watch the Las Vegas Raiders, Nelson Aguilar is making a play down the field. So that they've gotten something out of him, even when it seemed hopeless there in Philadelphia. And this was a game where, it was back and forth, a really good Sunday night game. The Raiders scored late with a minute and 43 seconds left. A touchdown pass to Jason Witten. It looked like it might close out the game, but I think everybody and their sister thought a minute and 43 seconds is just too much time for the Chiefs, and that's exactly what happened. Patrick Mahomes marched them right down the field, scores the game-winning touchdown, and I think the Raiders can walk away feeling good. Obviously, you never feel that good after a loss, but they've played the Chiefs competitive twice. They beat them once. They need to definitely be taken seriously. The Raiders are a legit team, just not quite as legit as what I think is the best team in football. The Kansas City Chiefs, they are amazing, and people take for granted, I think, now how good Patrick Mahomes is week in and week out. These are two really good teams, and I'm looking forward to see how it shakes out there in the AFC West. And then on to the final game of Week 11, the Monday nighter between the Rams and the Buccaneers. And this was Jared Goff versus Tom Brady for the first time, I think the first time since the Super Bowl. I don't think they played when Tom Brady was in New England. But Jared Goff finished 39 for 51, 51 passes he threw in this game. Holy smokes. 376 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions as the Buccaneers fall to the Rams 27-24. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are two super underrated receivers. I tweeted that I feel like Robert Woods is the fastest human being in the universe, because every time I watch the Rams, it seems like Robert Woods is catching a screen at behind the line of scrimmage and somehow dekes and dodges his way and just outruns everyone. I mean, Robert Woods he's so fast. People don't talk about him as being one of the fastest guys in the NFL, but he is crazy. He finished with 12 receptions, 130 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp had 11 receptions for 145 yards, and they outplayed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have really struggled on primetime football this year. Tom Brady, he did not look right in this game. He was 26 for 48, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 ugly interceptions. Antonio Brown looked good early and looked like the Buccaneers might have a big time win on prime time. And the Patriots had a chance to win late. I think Tom Brady had just over 2 minutes to march down the field and win the game, but he threw another really ugly interception looking for his tight end, and it was just not an encouraging game. I think if you're a Buccaneers fan, the Buccaneers continue to struggle on primetime. They're now 1-3 this season on primetime, despite being 7-4 on the season. Tom Brady, like I tweeted on my other account, he just can't see in the dark apparently, because every time he plays on primetime football, he does not play well. And so this was a good win for the Rams, who are right there with the Seahawks at the top of the NFC West. And the Buccaneers are so inconsistent. One week it seems like they're the best team in football. In the next week, they seem like a complete disaster. And that's kind of how it seemed this week. Tom Brady looked bad. Their defense still is, really talented, has a bunch of guys flying all over, making plays, getting 2 interceptions of Jared Goff in this game. But the Buccaneers need to find some consistency. It seems like Bruce Arians is just so insistent on throwing the ball down the field and taking deep shots, even though that's not Tom Brady's game. I mean, he missed every time Tom Brady threw the ball deep in this game. It seemed like he missed. He missed and some of them bad. I mean, I don't know if Bruce Arians has not watched Tom Brady play over the last 20 years, but that's not his game. His game is this dink and dunk offense and hitting wide open receivers, short and having run after catch. That's been his game. I don't know why Bruce Arians is so insistent on these deep shots. Now on to a new segment that I'm starting this week and probably ending this week, depending on how it goes. We're not really sure. But it's I was talking about earlier. It was a tough weekend for me sports wise. Things didn't go my way. And if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you're stressed out. It is a tough, it's a tough time right now. COVID-19 has wreaked havoc on everything we love. And it's the holiday season. That can often be very stressful. So, we're just going to take a little bit of time just to relax. Joe? Maybe we could use some, relaxing music right now. Thoughts? Maybe adding in some Oh,
wait, what's that? Wait, hold on. Wait, do you hear that?
Wait. Oh. Now that's much better. I'm already feeling so much more relaxed. So, in this part of the segment, we want to just, take a moment to just relax. Okay? Things are stressful. Things are tough. There's a lot of people in the NFL, I think, that just need to be told to just relax. Everything's gonna be okay. Joe, what do you do to relax? You ever have a specific thing that maybe advice you have for people who need to learn to relax?
I do breathing exercises.
Breathing exercises.
Yes.
Very good. Like what, for example?
Inhaling through your nose for 5 seconds, holding for 4, exhaling for 6.
That's a lot. Wow. I got stressed just thinking about
no,
that.
maybe 4. Maybe you're exhaling for 4 or 5. Oh no.
Oh no, now he's stressed.
Wait.
Joe, relax.
How do I do it?
Relax.
Oh.
Just relax.
Oh.
Okay. I also find myself doing breathing exercises sometimes. I find when I get really stressed out, sometimes I just like to do one big, just one big nice breath. And I find that works just about as long as that breath lasts. And then that's over.
Gee, isn't that breath nice?
Yeah, that breath is really nice. But there are some, like we're talking about, there's some people in the NFL world that I feel like need to just take a step back. You're a little tense. Maybe just take a breather. And we're going to give them a little bit of advice, a little bit of, relaxation in a time when things are so stressful. And the first people that I think need to relax, and that's Patriots fans. Patriots fans, relax, okay? I know things are tough right now. You're one of the worst teams in football, okay? It's okay. Just relax, okay? Think about where you guys were for 20 years. You had a 220-68 record since 2001 with 6 Super Bowls, 17 division titles in those 19-18 seasons. To put that in perspective, you go to another team in the AFC in that same time span. The Browns went 96-207. That's 96 wins and 207 losses. 13 last place finishes in their division, as opposed to 17 division titles for you Patriots fans. And they also went through 12 head coaches in that time, whereas you only had one, the greatest coach of all time. So just relax. I know things are bad right now, but just remember, you completely ruined every football fan's life for so long. It's time that you take a step back and you just suck for a little bit. And that's okay. You're giving other teams a chance. We just talked about the Cleveland Browns and how they struggled for so long. Well, now they look like one of the better teams in the NFL. It's good to give other people a chance. So Patriots fans, just take a breather, take a breath, and just realize that everything's going to be okay. You guys were so good for so long. And then on to the next person that needs a little help, or the next people that need a little help. And it's another fan base, and it's Texans fans. Texans fans, I know things are rough. Bill O'Brien came in there. He completely dismantled your team, traded away DeAndre Hopkins. He's playing so well on the Cardinals, but don't think about that. Don't think about that, guys. Don't think about that. We're trying to relax. We're trying to relax, Texans fans. And what you need to do to relax is to just think about this. You have Deshaun Watson on your team, okay? Despite not having a first-round pick or a second-round pick upcoming, not having any cap space, potentially losing J.J. Watt next season, things are going to be tough for a few years. I'm not going to lie. Things are going to be tough. But that's life. But the best part is the one position in football that's the hardest position to come by, the quarterback position, you have figured out. You did it. It's something that teams struggle with for generations, to find that generational talent at quarterback, and you found it. Despite how bad your team is, Deshaun Watson is amazing. He's the 4th graded quarterback by PFF with a 90.8 grade. He's 2,883 yards, 8.5 yards per throw, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns. He is a generational talent. So just rest easy, Houston Texans fans. Just realize that things are going to be okay in the end because you have a franchise quarterback finally. You no longer have to worry about David Carr or Matt Schaub. No. Don't think about that. Just relax, because you're in the arms of Deshaun Watson now. And the next person that needs a little bit of a helping hand, and this is a specific person and somebody that we've been very critical about, that I've been very critical about, and that everybody's been very critical about the past few weeks or the past few months, and that's Carson Wentz, the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's somebody that I think genuinely needs to relax. I mean, just relax. Carson Wentz, I've never seen a quarterback play as scared and as worried as he looks constantly. I mean, he looks like what I would do if I was a quarterback, you know? He's just freaking out constantly. Carson, if you're listening to this, and I know you are, you're a very loyal listener, despite me being so rude to you all the time. I know you just had a baby. I did research on him. I know this is a stressful time for you, okay? You're trying to think about, we got to raise this kid up right. But just relax, okay? Just remember, not that long ago, you were an MVP caliber quarterback. You were playing amazing, okay? You were, you had the Eagles as a Super Bowl contender. And now I know things are bad. You have 14 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. You fumble the ball 10 times. And things just look bad. And I think you just need to take a step back, take a breath. You're tense. You're not Carson Wentz right now. You're Carson Tense. You need to just just relax, man. It's gonna be okay. Take a breather, take a breath, and just get back to where your team needs you to be, man. Don't overthink it. And that's my biggest advice to you, Carson Wentz. Don't overthink it. Just play quarterback, man. It's not that hard, right? On to my final person or peoples that need to relax. And this one's personal for me. And this was everybody in an uproar this week about Taysom Hill being able to be played at the tight end position in fantasy football. And I'm not relaxed anymore, people, because you're only mad that that Taysom Hill got to be played at the tight end position because you didn't think of it first. Okay, everybody? I thought of it. I started him at the tight end position. He scored me 22 points. Just relax, man. Come on. I mean, everybody's getting so mad about fantasy football that Taysom Hill was allowed to be played at the quarterback position. Just, it's just fantasy football, man. You're just jealous you didn't think about it first. So take a breather, take a breath, just chill out, bro. And I don't know what that segment was, to be honest with you. I don't know how that's going to sound or what that really was. I hope you guys enjoyed that segment because it felt like a dream for me. I don't know what really happened.
You sounded really nice.
Thanks. Do you notice my calming voice?
I did.
Except for when people want to talk crap about me starting Taysom Hill at the tight end position. It's fair, okay? It's fair. I was allowed to do it.
Okay.
Other people did it.
All right.
Sorry. I just need to relax again. Best way to relax, I think, is to do a little Week 12 picks, maybe. Week 12, Thanksgiving. We have 3 games on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. Congratulations to the Americans who have American Thanksgiving this week. We already had ours. Congratulations. I'm very happy for you. Hopefully you guys can relax. On Thanksgiving, we have 3 games on Thursday. First up, we have the Houston Texans at the Detroit Lions. I'm going to pick the Texans because I think Detroit is a mess right now. So I'm going to pick the Texans to win. And then we have Washington at Dallas. And I think I'm just going to pick Dallas just because it's in Dallas. I don't think either one of these teams is necessarily good. I wouldn't be surprised to see Washington win, but now I have no idea what to think about Dallas after their win against Minnesota. So I'm going to pick them to win on Thanksgiving. And then we have Baltimore at Pittsburgh, and Baltimore has been completely decimated by COVID-19. That whole organization is struggling with COVID-19 right now. It seems Mark Ingram will not be able to play. J.K. Dobbins will not be able to play. I'm going to pick Pittsburgh to win that game and basically lock up the NFC North if it is not already locked up. Then we move to these Sunday games. First up, the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets. I'm picking the Dolphins to have a big bounce back win. Hopefully Tua can improve over his disastrous performance against the Broncos. And then we have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Atlanta Falcons. Give me the Raiders. They're playing really good football right now. I like where they're at. I like what John Gruden has done with this team. Give me them over Atlanta. And then the Los Angeles Chargers at the Buffalo Bills. As good as Justin Herbert's playing, I think the Buffalo Bills are really good. And I don't see them losing to a Chargers team that doesn't really know how to win at this point. So give me Buffalo. And then the New York Giants at the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to take the Giants because Ryan Finley is now starting for the Bengals. I think it's going to be an ugly end of the season for Zach Taylor in the Cincinnati Bengals rather. And then the Cleveland Browns playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. I sure hope Cleveland wins this game. This is another one that they should win and must win if they want to be taken seriously. So I'm going to pick Cleveland to win. Then we have Tennessee at Indianapolis. These teams just played 2 weeks ago. Indianapolis got the better of Tennessee. I'm going to pick them again just because I like where Tennessee's at, or I like where Indianapolis is at right now. I do also like where Tennessee is at, but I think Indianapolis is a better team right now, a more balanced team. Tennessee has a terrible defense. Indianapolis' defense is really, really good. So give me Indianapolis. And then Carolina at Minnesota. Despite a disappointing loss to the Cowboys, I'm going to pick Minnesota just because even with Adam Thielen out, they still have Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins seems to be playing a little bit better. Carolina, their defense is not quite good enough to maybe keep up with all those weapons. So give me Minnesota. And then we have Arizona at New England. And New England, I talked about them needing to relax. They're going to need to relax after this week as well because the Arizona Cardinals are going to beat them in New England. That's actually, I didn't realize that the game is in New England, but I'm still picking Arizona as another team I like where they're at right now. Kyler Murray, hopefully he's healthier for this game because he's playing at an MVP level this season. And then New Orleans at Denver as we move into the 4 o'clock games. Denver, big win for them this last week, but I'm still going to pick New Orleans. I think they're coming together. It'll be fun to see Taysom Hill again starting for the Saints, presumably. I don't think Drew Brees is coming back with his 11 cracked ribs that he has. And then we have San Francisco at Los Angeles. San Francisco is a team that I almost forgot that existed because of all the injuries that they've had this season. But the Rams are playing good football right now. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are one of the most underrated duos in the NFL. So they pick up a big win against San Francisco. And then Kansas City at Tampa Bay. A really fun game. Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady. I just think, like I said, I think the Chiefs are the best team in football right now. I don't think the Buccaneers can hang with them despite having all the talent. I wouldn't be surprised to see this game be close, but I'm going to pick Kansas City. And then Chicago. I said that really weird. Chicago at Green Bay. Hopefully, maybe, potentially, Matt Nagy, didn't want to announce a starter. This could be the return of Biskey. I hope next week we talk a little bit about Biskey returning here against Green Bay. But because I'm not sure about that, I'm going to pick Green Bay to win and a bounce-back win. And then Seattle at Philadelphia. And this is the Seahawks who have struggled at times, but I'm going to pick them to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And that is my lock of the week, the Seahawks over the Philadelphia Eagles. That seems like kind of a lame lock looking back on it now, but that's okay because it's my show and I can do whatever I want. So I'm locking up the Seahawks against the Philadelphia Eagles. And speaking of locks, I know I said on last week's episode, Joe,
bring that up,
that I was going to do the punishments this weekend, but I promise, guys, I totally forgot.
I was with you on Saturday, the day that you said you were going to do these things, and I entirely forgot.
Both of us completely forgot. I'm sorry, I guess. When should we do it now? Question mark. This upcoming weekend, if we remember. I was genuinely really busy this weekend, so we'll try to do them this weekend. Yeah, exactly. I
dip into your personal life.
Please don't. Sorry. But we're gonna do the punishments upcoming. Just stay tuned on the Instagram. It's gonna happen, and maybe we'll never do punishments again because I'm regretting making this a thing on the podcast. But if you guys enjoyed the show, Lord knows I enjoyed the show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. A little bit chaotic at times, a little bit crazy, a little silly.
Well, maybe a little quirky.
A little quirky, a little random, And that's what, why people love us, because we're just random,
We're so famous.
Goodness gracious. If you enjoyed the show, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. And wherever you listen, if there's a rating system, wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you listen to this podcast, give us a good one. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, if you leave us a 5-star rating and you leave us a 5-star review, you can write a caption in the 5-star review And whatever you write in that 5-star caption, we will say on the podcast. You can put whatever you want on there, as long as it's not bullying or angry or mean. We will put anything on the podcast, anything you want. All you have to do is leave us a 5-star rating. Just, do that, please. And follow us on social media at _Average Joe Show. And Joe, you got anything to say to the people before we wrap up today's show?
No, I got nothing.
Nothing? Perfect. Great.
Do you want me to say something?
Well, listen, it would help if you would pitch in a little bit once in a while.
I'm going to talk about my Gilmore Girls thing.
Okay, all right. Until next time, we'll catch you guys on the next one.